Tom Crean was an Irish seaman and Antarctic explorer. He made 3 major expeditions to Antarctica, including Scott's 1911 to 1913 Terra Nova expedition, which saw the race to the South Pole with Roald Amundsen that ended in the deaths of Scott and his party. During this expedition, Crean completed a solo 35-mile or 56-kilometre hike across the Ross Ice Shelf to save the life of Edward Edmonds, and this led to him receiving the Albert Medal for lifesaving. Tom Crean was born in Anniscall, County Kerry, and he returned here when he retired in 1920 to run a pub in the village which he named the South Pole Inn. The local Anniscall Walking Club launched a challenge walk in 2013 to commemorate Crean's famous solo walk. It starts at the base of Mount Brandon and crosses the mountains to Connor Pass and back to Anniscall. At 30 kilometres and over 1,600 metres of elevation, it is one of the tougher mountain challenge walks in Ireland. The walk this year took place on the 22nd of June, and I had it tagged as my big challenge for the year. I made the long journey down to Kerry on the Friday to meet up with Martin from Soul Trail, and with a few hours to spare after registering at the South Pole Inn, I explored the village, including the Tom Crean Memorial Garden. After dinner in one of the local pubs, we spent the night car camping in the car park at the base of Mount Brandon to enable an early start and to stay ahead of the crowd. Waking up on Saturday morning, it was clear that the forecast was unfortunately pretty accurate, with low cloud obscuring the mountain tops. However, we were still optimistic that we could do this. Heading up Mount Brandon, we hit rain at 400 metres and soon entered a cloud layer that was to steal our views for the rest of the day. We summited Brandon at 4 kilometres and approximately 1 hour 30 minutes. We were drenched, but it was only on leaving Brandon that we felt the full force of the wind and realised just how bad it was. By the time we had 10 kilometres done and reached the first water stop, we decided to pull the pin at the Connor Pass. Today was not to be our day, and we had to be content with half a loaf. "48 hours after leaving a cold, wet and windy Kerry, I landed in gloriously sunny 28 degrees at Faro Airport as we started a week-long family holiday in the Algarve region of Portugal, close to the town of Albufeira and all the madness that place brings. My only planned activity for the week was a 15-kilometre hike of a looped route called PR1 SLV, or the cultural route of São Bartolomeu de Messina. The Via Algarviana, or GR13, is a 300-kilometre long-distance route that crosses the width of Portugal from Alcutim on the Spanish border to Cabo de São Vicente on the Atlantic Ocean. Along the way, there are 12 complementary looped short-distance paths that allow you to explore parts of the regions the long-distance path crosses, but on a simpler day hike. The PR1 SLV is one of these paths, and it starts and finishes in the small town of Messina in the municipality of Silves. The official start is on a small path beside the fence line of a small school. It descends quickly along a rough track before hitting the wooded slopes of the hill, climbing steadily to the highest point of the whole walk at 298 metres. The strong sunshine and 26-degree heat made it feel like much more hard work than it sounds. The hillside is extensively covered with cork oaks that are used to make many traditional items, including the obvious corks for wine bottles. However, many of the tourist shops in Albufeira have a variety of goods for sale made from this local cork. Anything from handbags to wallets to shoes. From the highest point, the path follows along the ridgeline above Messines before gradually dropping back down into the town. A short walk takes you back out into the countryside and a valley between two ridges and follows the railway track for approximately 4 kilometres. Crossing the dried up river ford below the train track, the water levels showed the impact of the prolonged dry summer. However, I wouldn't fancy this crossing after a spell of heavy rains. Climbing up onto the second ridge, I eventually reached the 18th century church of Santa Anna, which was the site of a significant battle in 1834. The tiled panel shows the layout of the battle, and the church commands an impressive view of the valleys below. Shortly after leaving the church, I had the only rain of the entire week. A strange shower of very large raindrops that threatened a major thundery downpour but lasted less than 10 minutes and hardly dampened the ground at all. Dropping down from Santa Anna, I arrived at the banks of the Rio Arade, which appears to be a significant river, but it was almost completely dried up at this stage of the summer. The final climb of the day brought me along a mixture of gravel roads and single track, before spitting me out on a minor road on the outskirts of Messines. Crossing the railroad tracks once again, I was soon in the older section of town and back to where I parked the car. 15 kilometres and a thoroughly enjoyable day.